That is a very unusual name for a dog, and that's the name he came with. This is his roadmap to success. Now, Pilot is a great dog. He's a smart dog and a very loving dog, but I see some indications that he might have a case of separation anxiety. Actually, if you want to pan down to the floor right there and just show right at your feet. So that's some of the things that were in his, come here, buddy. You can come back to me. In his dog beds, he has a couple of blankets, and I think what's going on is that's something that a lot of dogs, when they have separation anxiety, they chew to soothe themselves, and I worry that he's only been here a month, that he might be developing a little separation anxiety. He's given me some indicators, like the video that we did above was teaching him to go up and down those stairs, because he's been the last week staying at the bottom of the stairs, and the guardian's like, he will stay there and he will not leave unless there's a person up in the apartment with me. And so that tells me that he's trying to position himself in the place that you're going to have to pass when you leave, so he can prevent you from leaving him behind, and he can come with you. So to address that problem, I showed the guardian how to teach him how to stay. Remember to teach the 3 Ds. First for duration, up to 5 minutes with the dog right here. Only then do we start adding distance, and then eventually we add in distractions. Maybe with a dog barking on TV, practicing on the deck when there's dogs out in the field across the street, or whatever the case. If you forget how to do that, message me. I've got a bunch of videos of teaching dogs to stay, and I can share one of those with you. We also went over the importance of rules and structure. He really didn't, the guardian's doing a good job of exercising him. I gave him a couple creative solutions, like using a laser he really liked, running up and down the stairs he liked, playing fetch. We taught him to drop. Remember to practice that when he has a low value item in his mouth, to go ahead, and the guardian's kind of eyeing him as he goes back there to make sure he doesn't counter surf. If he does counter surf more, let me know. I have a video I can share with that as well. So basically, the more that we taught him to drop, and so like right there, he's got something in his mouth, drop. Normally what I do is normally he wasn't dropping before, but what I did is I just held the treat against his nose when the dog has an object in his mouth. As soon as he drops it, I pop the treat in his mouth, and I don't go for the object. So the dog's like, okay, so if I got good stuff, and you ask me to drop, you give me something better than what I have, and I get my original stuff back, deal. And that's what we're doing. This is the power of positive reinforcement. Okay, so what else did we go over? We went over rules and structure and how to provide both. So if you forget some of those rules, message me and I can go over those with you, and I can show you how to enforce those, but he caught on to them really, really well. Also, structure. We went over petting with a purpose and passive training. Remember, petting with a purpose is if he nudges or initiates contact or some way of saying, I want attention, you're going to make him earn it by sitting or laying down or offering some behavior you want. I would prefer not shaking, because he's already putting paws on you, and if you like this, you must really like this, is how dogs look at it. So, and so that's petting with a purpose. And even if I just want to pet him, sit. I only want to say it once. So if he doesn't sit, I'm just not going to pet him. And otherwise, if I pet him anyways, well, if I get paid whether I do my job or not, I'm not going to do my job. So petting is a way of paying the dog. So, and remember, anything that he's doing when you're petting him is what you're specifically rewarding him. I watched him climb up on top of his guardian. He was petting him while he was doing that. That's rewarding the dog for doing that. We can also pet a fearful dog and make them more fearful. An anxious dog more anxious, stressed dog more stressed, an excited dog more excited. Many people confuse excited for happy when it comes to dogs. You're not doing anything, so I can pet you. You can pet your dog without a purpose, but it's much, much more powerful. Sit. Sit. I didn't say good dog, good boy, his name, or anything else. I said just the command word, and I petted him under his chin. When a dog feels good about itself, his nose is parallel to the ground or tilted up, so try to pet under the chin whenever possible. You can scratch his butt and his sides too. Just never pat him on top of his head. Let me see, what else? I don't know, we got something weird going on outside. Let me see, the other thing is passive training. Passive training is basically waiting for the dog to voluntarily offer a behavior on their own, like right here. Come. I didn't ask him to come. I didn't show him I had a treat. I didn't give him the command word. He did it on his own volition. Well, if every time your dog does what you want, does something you like, and you stop what you're doing and give them some attention, that's going to train them to actually continue to do those things. Many of us train our dogs to misbehave. It steals remote control, we get up and chase it. It barks, we tell it to shut up. It jumps up on our gas, we chastise the dog. For dogs, any attention is actually validating, and they would rather be yelled at than ignored. We'd rather be ignored as humans. So if the dog jumps up on people and that gets attention, the dog's going to continue jumping up on people. So for petting with a purpose and passive training, we're basically channeling the dog's energy into those two activities or into the desired actions and behaviors. Now, if he gets on the furniture, we don't want him on the furniture. We just throw a treat on the floor. It's right over there, buddy. I'll do another one for you. And then say the word off when he licks it up. This is kind of a version of how we taught him to go to his dog bed on command. We created a dog bed here under the TV. I would have a separate name for the dog bed in the bedroom. And actually the little mat that's in the front of the kitchen, in front of the sink there, is what we were using for the door when we're going outside. So we came up with, I think, deck for that one. So the way we did is just toss a treat. He goes over and licks it up. We said the word deck or off or whatever the command word is. So coming up with this vocabulary helps us have a better ability to communicate with our dogs. It just takes a little bit of practice, and after a while, he was going and laying down on the dog bed on his own. But if he nudges you for attention, you pet him, you're telling him, yeah, you're the boss of me. And that can stress the dog out because he probably tells you not to leave me alone, and you do it anyways. Well, he's not listening to me. So now I get stressed out and worried, just like a parent who has a child that doesn't listen. And we're not going to be at our best when we're stressed out. So let me see. Petting with the purpose of passive training. If your guardian gets in the habit of doing both of those things, every time you pet your dog, it becomes a micro training session. Let me see. What else did we go over? I also showed the guardian a hand targeting or touch exercise, which is a way to reposition the dog without having to manhandle the dog. It's also a nice way to call the dog to you. He had some difficulty coming to the guardian at times, and so I think he was actually struck in a previous home. Clearly, I mean, that's not the case now, but there are times where I reached to pet him and he kind of cowered down. If he does that, one of the things you could do to teach him not to cower for that. Come here, buddy. I'll pull him out of here. Come here, these are the fresh ones. Oh yes, he's like you. Remember, burp the air out of this bag before you close it each time. So just fold it over. Make sure all the air is out and zip it shut. Don't leave the bag open. They'll be hard as M&Ms in about 5 minutes. All right, buddy, sit. Sit. So to do this, the dog's used to like cowering when you do this. So go like that, and then give the dog a treat. Now he's blinking, you can't see from the camera, but I'm doing a pretty fast movement. I have dogs that are really fearful. I have to go like super duper slow like that. But there were a couple times throughout the session he kind of ducked down when I reached for him, and that tells me the dog was probably punitively corrected, which dogs just don't learn very well from that. That's a very easy thing to fix. Let me see. So for passive training, every time he comes to you, make sure you get in the habit of petting him and say come. Also be careful of the words that you use. So half of the session, the guardian was saying come. The other half of the session, the guardian was saying come here. There's nothing wrong with either one, but if you make him listen for two different words, it's going to slow down his effective listening ability. So it's just easier for us all to have one command word. Now, because the guardian is single, I would come up with some visual aids. Put a little over the TV, petting with the purpose. By here, we call this one Maui, the dog bed. Put a little Maui on the entertainment unit behind the dog bed. Deck over there. Sit at the door. All these other little visual indicators to help you understand. Now, I also showed the guardian how he can break down going out the door to help the dog practice staying there without going through the door himself. And this is really what I do as a behaviorist. I'm going to kind of give you a synopsis of this. We did a little version of this with feeding him in a structured way as well, which is definitely something the guardian should continue to do. Make sure you eat first and say the word feast or whatever the word is you want to use when he licks up the treat. So what I do as a behaviorist, if a dog fails at a behavior, I try to recreate the situation, but I do it in the easiest version of that situation as possible. Crash, my preferred word. Remember, come up with funny command words for new commands. And that's something I'd like the guardian to do is go to YouTube, look for ways to teach your dog to roll over, play dead. Those two should be learned together. I went over teaching the dog to stay. Like I said, I have videos for that, so message me if you have questions on that. Tug of war. Anytime his teeth touch you. But basically, so as soon as he jumps up on me, I just cross my arms and I freeze and become uninteresting. He's going straight to where the treats are because he's a smarty dog. But when you have a smart dog, if you do teach them new tricks or commands, maybe one a week, and you do that for like 2 months, 3 months, that's like 8, 12 new commands. Now you have different ways of redirecting his attention. All right, as a behaviorist, if I have a dog that fails to behave the way that I want, usually it's because we haven't taught them how to behave. So what I do is I recreate the situation in the easiest version of that situation possible. Then I go to the and I break all the elements down in individual steps. So the first step, for that door thing is I want you to just go to the mat that we're called deck. Second step was I walked to the door. Now when I walked, I kept my back to the door and my front facing the dog. Remember, your authority goes whatever direction your hips are pointing. So I walked to the door and then I reached for the handle. I didn't even touch it. I just reached like this and he got up. I told him to sit, put my hand back, told him to sit. When he sat, I reached again. I did this several times, only reaching like 3 inches until he stayed seated while I was doing that. Then I went a little bit more. When I actually got to the door, I'm actually going this way, I jiggled the deadbolt. As soon as he heard that deadbolt, he lurched forward because that's a sound that means the door is going to open. He's ready to go forward. Well, we're teaching him by breaking down this whole activity in individual steps. So the first step is I want you to go there. Second step is no matter what I'm doing or reaching for the door, I want you to stay in this location. And instead of doing the full Monty of opening the door, we just reach a little bit and pull back. Reach a little bit more and pull back. A little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And eventually when we got to the deadbolt, I jiggled it several times until he stayed seated. Then I jiggled the handle a couple times. And then I open it a crack. And at any point that he gets up or does something I don't want, we stop the whole thing and restart from, you can start from this beginning or you can go back to that previous step if it's a short aberration. He just gets up, you can stop, sit, and then go back to where you were. If he like runs around the room, then I might move away or go back and start the whole thing from scratch. Eventually we got to the point where I opened the door a little bit, then a little bit more, then a little bit more, and eventually fully open, and he was just staying in place. There's nothing but air between him and the door. We did the same thing for feeding him. For feeding him, again, I would put him in this position where we did and not let him cross as if there's a line from the edge of the carpet that goes that way. He just is not allowed to cross. I don't care where he goes, except for on the furniture, that's one of the rules, but just not allowed to be there. And then the guardian's gonna eat something first, just something in 5 more bites. It doesn't have to be a real meal. That's nice if you can do it, but 5 more bites of a chip or crackers is sufficient. Don't use smoothies or coffee, and don't fake it because he'll know the difference. And then when he takes his first bite, we say feast for about 2 weeks. Or 2 months, excuse me. And after about 2 months, you can say feast, and that'll be his command word. And you'll get him to sit right there, and you could actually come and eat your snack here behind the dog, so that it's human, dog, food on the other side, and there's really no barrier, and that's wonderful self-control. Let's see, what else did we go over? Come, a little bit more passive training for you. Excited is not necessarily happy, and most of us, when we come home, our dog's super excited, we pet him. Hey, it's good to see you. Well, we're going to make them slightly more excited each time we do. So if you have a dog that has separation anxiety or has some impulse control issues, you should not make a big production when you leave or return. You want to make it a non-issue. When you come in, if he's all bouncing, excited, ignore him. Don't say a word. Don't tell him not to do it. That's micromanaging your dog. I see people do that all the time. That's great if you're always there to manage your dog, but I would prefer to teach the dog how I want it to behave so it can manage its own behavior. So basically, he's going to get another toy. And name all the toys. So when he brings you a toy, you could call that one, Orange Club, or, Purple Mama, whatever you want. One-word commands are better. And again, play tug of war with him. Anytime his teeth touch you, yelp like a little girl, even if it's accidental. So he look, ah! Sit. Okay, so let me see. So that was feeding. Same sort of situation for feeding is, he has to wait for permission to eat the food that's waiting in his bowl. Let me see. I also went over the escalating consequences to disagree with unwanted actions and behaviors. Is there anything else we went over that I forgot to summarize? I think I've gotten just about all of it. Oh, when you come home, I didn't finish that train of thought. So when you come home, if your dog's bouncing around and you pet your dog, it's wobbling because he's licking the camera stand. But basically, if you pet him when he's bouncing around, it's nice to be appreciated when you come home, but you're making the dog slightly more excited, and excited is not necessarily happy. So when you come home, if he's all excited, ignore him. Don't even look at him, because looking at him or correcting him is a reward. As soon as he settles down, reach for him. As soon as he sees you do it, he's going to start wiggling, pull your arm back. Don't say no. You say no through your actions. When you get overexcited, I lose interest in petting you. When you're calm and balanced, I love to pet you, and it'll attract my attention. And after a while, when you come home, he'll start sitting or offering you those desired controlled behaviors. Then you can pet him and do all those fun things that you want to do. But dogs, just like us, when we're hysterical, that's not when we're going to make our best decisions. Or I'm stressed out or excited, happy, excited, I'm still not going to make my best decisions. Yeah, she was doing this to get me to do stuff for you on camera, I think. Well, this is Pilot, and these are this is Pilot's roadmap to success, right? Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you mean it.